Just a quick update, the Patreon page is now live. The link will be down below if you want to check it out. You'll have access to all of my betting packages and much more. Thanks again for all the support, but for now, let's get into the video.
Yo, what's up guys, we're back. We're going to be doing another breakdown prediction video. This week it's for UFC Fight Night, Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. It is a switch up. We were expecting it to be Norma Dumont versus Holly Holm, but Aspen Ladd stepped in short notice here. And before we get the video started, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsor here, EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They are a capping service that does a really exceptional job with all their betting. They do in all sports. They do MMA betting, they do NBA, NFL. So I think NBA starts next week, so that's going to be coming back up. Obviously, college sports is going on right now, so they handle all that for you, and they're doing pretty well right now. I mean, since March 4th or March 1st, they're up over $4,000 in MMA if you're betting $100 a unit. And they have affordable pricing as well. They have a free trial going on right now. So, you know, they have a lot of things you could take advantage of. I really feel like they do a great job. They do a good job with math and analytics. And, you know, friends don't let friends gamble without math. And they're some of the best at it. So definitely recommend EquitySportsAnalytics.com. Check them out and see what they're all about. Check their free trial out. See if you like their service. And if you do, buy one of their packages and make some money. So definitely think you should check out EquitySportsAnalytics.com and really appreciate them for supporting the channel. And then I've been having a little bit of an issue. I guess Tapology is doing maintenance on their website or something. Not really sure, but you're gonna have to use this website here, UFC.com, to do the video for this week. And yeah, but before we get started with the video, let's try to hit the like button if you're watching right now. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you're new. I really appreciate it, all the support that I've been getting. And make sure to put a comment down below what you're most confident in, what you're betting on this week. I always appreciate talking back and forth with you guys and your guys' input on the fights. And if you want to check out the Patreon this week, we're going to be dropping some bets for UFC. We already have a few out there, and we're going to be dropping some Bellator plays. So we've actually done really well recently. We've been making some good money. We won some money again on the Contender Series. I'm actually 10 for 10 on the last 10 Contender Series fights. I've predicted them all correctly, so that's pretty good. And we had a perfect night last night betting on Contender Series, so definitely feel like you should get in on that and check it out. I've hit all 7 weeks we've cashed on the show, so definitely would recommend you checking that out, checking out the content that I have over there and winning some money. But with this card right now, with the first matchup, we got a women's fight here. We got Istela Nunes taking on Ariane Carnelossi. And Carnelossi, she had that really, really fun fight against Na Liang, where it was the first fight with fans back in the stands, and they really went at it in that first round. It was back and forth, and then Carnelossi was able to get the finish in the second round. And she's a little bit shorter for the division. She's, 5'2", and kind of short reach, short arms, but she's a powerhouse. Short, compact, durable, really good cardio, and she pressures and throws big hooks, body head, and she tries to break girls with that pressure and the pace and just the power that she brings. She's decent when she can back fighters to the cage. She'll get into the clinch and work the dirty boxing. But you saw against fighters that have pretty good footwork, that can move, use long strikes, like Angela Hill gave Carnelossi a lot of issues because she has a little bit of a plotty footwork. Hill was able to actually cut her open with the elbow and get the stoppage in that fight. And Na Liang, who's not really a great striker, dropped Carnelossi with the first right cross she threw of the fight. And Carnelossi is tough to deal with for fighters who have suspect cardio or toughness issues. She's going to take shots. She's going to test you and keep coming forward. She's strong. She has some power if she connects. And if you get tired and she starts landing heavy, she can kind of make you look for the way out. Cardio is what really got her the win against Na Liang in her last fight. As far as grappling goes, even though Carnelossi won her last fight on the ground, I wouldn't really classify her as the best grappler. When she fought Na Liang, it was a scramble fest. Both girls were a little bit green on the ground, and Carnelossi was actually the one getting taken down, put in bad positions, but Liang would get a little bit over aggressive. Carnelossi would reverse, get on top, and she's strong in top position. I mean, she's built and she has good ground and pound. She doesn't really have great wrestling. She does, in certain fights, like I did see her take down Gloria DePaula against the cage a few times and, was able to control her on the ground a little bit. But unless girls just have really bad footwork or their takedown defense against the cage is not up to par, I don't think she's going to be able to implement a really good wrestling game, Carnelossi. Carnelossi isn't really a submission threat. She only has one submission in her career, and she did lose the first fight of her career to Amanda Ribas by knee bar. In her last fight, she showed that, if you put her in there with an elite grappler, in my opinion, she's going to be in a little bit of trouble. But she's still young. She's tough. She has a good experience level, and she's definitely been fighting more frequently, obviously, and way more recently than Istela Nunes. But Istela Nunes, this is going to be her UFC debut. She's had 3 years off from the sport. She got signed by the UFC in 2018, but failed a USADA test and sidelined her for 2 years. And it's actually going to be her first fight in the United States as well. But she's a Muay Thai fighter, a Muay Thai world champion. She's competed in some pretty big shows like One Championship, and she's a great striker. I mean, she has great forward pressure. She has good ability to switch stances, good footwork, puts combinations together really well, good straight shots, good kicks, good hand speed. She has power, and she has really good calmness in exchanges, and obviously she has a lot of experience in some high-level striking fights, so I feel like on the feet, Nunes is far and away the better striker technically, and she also is going to have a bit of a height and reach advantage as well, I believe. I don't know her reach, but she does have a 2-inch height advantage. And, Istela Nunes, as far as grappling goes, that is what has cost her in a couple of her losses, so I believe Ariane Carnelossi is going to be trying to use her big hooks, pressure, back her up to the cage, keep it a high pace, and see if Nunes slows down and she could start to take her down and take over the fight or get the finish on the ground. Because you've seen Istela Nunes, her loss to Angela Lee, she got taken down, gave her back, gave the rear naked choke, got finished. And against Mei Yamauchi in another one of her fights, she got taken down quite a few times. But in that fight, she actually showed some decent scrambling ability. And I do think that she's strong. She's good in the clinch as well. I don't think that Carnelossi is going to be able to bully Nunes. And, I just don't think that Nunes is good enough on the mat with her wrestling to expect her to grapple for 3 rounds. I think Carnelossi. I think Nunes could even reverse her if Carnelossi hits some takedowns. And Nunes has good cardio. She pushes the pace. She's experienced, even though in MMA she's not extremely experienced. But I think Istela Nunes should get the win here. I think she's even live for the knockout. She's big, she's strong. She's going to have a good size advantage, and she's going to probably be able to fend off the takedowns, in my opinion. I don't really think she's going to let Carnelossi back her up. I expect her to be the one moving forward and being a little bit more aggressive. And I think she has the power to make Carnelossi timid in these firefights. And then the technique to kind of pick her shots and take over the pace when Carnelossi becomes a little bit more timid and either get her out of there or get the decision win. So Nunes, obviously she's coming off a little bit of a layoff. You saw the suspension, but she's only 29 years old. She's not extremely old, and I believe that, I don't know. I don't believe that she was winning her fights because she was taking PEDs. I'm not sure what was going on there, but hopefully she comes in, looks good, and ready to go, and she could beat Carnelossi. So I'm going to go with Istela Nunes to get the slight upset here. Then up next here we have a great fight stylistically on paper with Danaa Batgerel taking on Brandon Davis. Both these guys, come to strike, and they are pretty fun strikers to watch. We got Danaa Batgerel, who he's kind of made a name for himself after losing his UFC debut. He's knocked out his last 2 opponents in the first round, both with big left hooks, one-punch knockouts, and looked really impressive doing so. And he was supposed to fight about a month ago against Montel Jackson, but he had some visa issues. But I see he's back at Jackson Wink now, so he's definitely going to be able to make the fight, and hopefully he performs well. But This is going to be the first time in Batgerel's career that he's actually faced an opponent who's taller than him. He started out his career at flyweight, and he was a big flyweight, but at bantamweight, he's kind of just an average-sized bantamweight, and this is going to be the biggest fighter he's ever faced. Former featherweight and Brandon Davis, that is the first guy that has the height and reach advantage on him in a fight. And style-wise, though, Danaa Batgerel is not the type of guy to back down. He's very dangerous. He's finished 5 of his 9 wins in the first round, so that kind of just shows you what type of fighter he is. His last 4 wins are all first-round finishes, and he's lost his last 2 decisions, and he's only 2-2 in decisions overall. So kind of his style is more privy to getting the win if he gets the finish. But most of the time, if he can't get the finish in the first round, it will go to decision. He's only finished 1 of his fights that went past the first round, and he has big power in both hands. He has a really nice straight and overhand right, and his left hook has been his money punch in his last 2 fights. He's gotten the knockout with it. He'll jab himself into range pretty effectively, and in range he'll throw big overhand rights, big hooks. He has good feints and fakes, and he's durable. He's willing to go for it. He does have a tendency to get real wide and wild, and I think Brandon Davis is a little bit sharper overall. But Batgerel definitely packs more one-shot power. And while Davis is durable, you can't sleep on Batgerel. You have to respect his power. And, Batgerel will sometimes mix in some kicks, but primarily a boxer. Both him and Davis like to stay in the pocket. So this fight should be a banger. Batgerel's last fight only lasted 50 seconds. He got the knockout. So going to be looking to replicate that here. But Batgerel is durable. He showed that in his fight with Healy Alatang. He took a lot of damage. But one thing I did notice in that Alatang fight is he took a lot of facial damage in that fight. And if his eyes start to swell up and, he gets his nose busted, that could be an issue against a guy like Brandon Davis, who's going to be throwing high output and landing a lot of headshots. And tonight, Batgerel, he isn't really an offensive grappler. He's attempted 0 takedowns in the UFC, so that kind of tells the tale there. He has solid takedown defense, but hasn't really faced too many high-level grapplers. And in his fight with Healy Alatang, he did lose that fight by getting taken down several times in the 3rd round. He's being very aggressive and wild in that round, though, so I feel like he maybe thought he was down on the scorecards, which did make the takedowns come easier. And he has good get-ups. I doubt he's going to have to deal with too many takedowns attempts from Davis in this fight, but I do think it would be kind of smart for Davis to try to mix in some takedowns. And Batgerel's cardio is good. He's going to be game. Brandon Davis is going to be his return to the octagon. He went 4-0 outside of the UFC. Kind of has a salty record. Inside the UFC, he's 2-5, but definitely faced some good competition. His last 2 fights were split decisions, and they were losses. And, he's back at 135 for this fight, where he went 1-1 in the UFC at 135. He, at bantamweight is one of the biggest bantamweights on the roster, and he's going to have, 3 inches in height, 2 inches in reach on Batgerel, as well as probably having a nice little weight advantage as well. And he's a brawler, but he's a technical brawler. He is pretty durable. He can give it and take it. He's never been finished by strikes, and both of the times he's been finished in his career are submission losses. Brandon Davis doesn't really have a lot of power, and usually when he faces the competition level of Batgerel, he has to beat them over 3 rounds. Almost all of Brandon Davis's finishes are against kind of low-level guys. Even his finish in the UFC against Randy Costa. Costa's obviously not low level, but at that time he was only 4-0 and had very little cage experience. But Brandon Davis is a good striker, man. He is long. He does a good job of staying in fighters' faces, rolling with punches, and returning with hard 1-2s, hard 3-2s. He is willing to mix it up in the pocket. He likes to talk to you, try to goad you into wars, and he'll mix it up. He has some nice low calf kicks, good body kicks. He looks for the front knees to the body. He does hold his hands a little bit low, so he's hittable. And, we've seen guys with good jabs or crosses kind of give him a little bit of trouble. But he's tough. He's hard to deal with on the feet. He keeps the volume high, pressures you, attacks all parts of the body. And, he isn't a one-punch guy, so he definitely just relies more on volume and breaking you down. And he's not the best wrestler. He can be taken down with doubles. His get-up game is okay, but he does give his back to stand up, and he doesn't really look too comfortable on the ground. I do think Davis, in the clinch is pretty strong. He has good knees, good elbows, and his jiu-jitsu is okay. He's a good scrambler, and his guard is fairly hard to pass, and he will throw up elbows off bottom, but this isn't a big submission threat. The get-up game doesn't really look there. And both times Brandon Davis has been finishing his career have been submissions. He got rear naked choked in his second pro fight, and then Zabit Magomedsharipov submitted him. And Brendan Davis has losses to guys like Kyung Ho Kang, Zabit, Barzola, Kyle Bochniak, and all those guys took him down and beat him due to controlling him. He has okay offensive wrestling. I mean, he showed that against Gigachikadze, but really isn't a big threat with that. I don't really see him going for takedowns here. He's going to get the fight he wants, and it's going to be a great fight. I think both guys are going to, stand in the center of the cage on a napkin, go to war. Early on, I think Batgerel is going to be the faster guy, potentially land some big shots, and if he lands that knockout on Brandon Davis, then that's his path to victory. But I think Brandon Davis is going to do what he does. I think he's going to stay in Batgerel's face, slip and rip in the pocket, attack the body, slow him down, work those leg kicks. I think he's going to do some visible damage to Batgerel's face. Batgerel doesn't really have that takedown threat, so I think that Batgerel is going to slow down a little bit because it's going to be a very high-paced, wild fight. Davis is going to start to snipe when he gets a little bit wild, and I think Davis could even mix in some takedowns or clinch control and use that to win on the scorecard. So my pick is going to be Brandon Davis to get it done and have two underdogs start off the card with victories here. And alright, this is kind of where the underdog train stops for me, at least for now, with Nate the Train Landwehr taking on Ludwig Klein. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go with Nate the Train in this one. I got to go with Ludwig Klein here. Even though Klein lost his last fight, it was a little bit of a debatable decision. A lot of people thought that he should have got the victory in that one. In this fight, I feel like it's a very good stylistic matchup for Klein, and he is a pretty big favorite, obviously. But when you look at the fight, I mean, Nate Landwehr, if he's able to survive the first round, maybe a little bit of the second round, and Klein starts to slow down, then maybe he could start to take over, find that chin, and start to work his boxing. But Nate Landwehr, he's a guy that comes forward very aggressive, not really the fastest or most technical guy, and he does have power in his hands, but he's not like a one-punch knockout guy, so I don't think Klein is going to be too overly worried about just getting finished with one shot against Landwehr. He doesn't really have to worry about that. And, Landwehr is going to give him a lot of opportunities to snipe, to counter, which that's Ludwig Klein's game, man. Ludwig Klein, he likes to use a lot of lateral movement and try to counter you with big 1-2s, big 3-2s that you either, jab to high kick or cross to high kick combo, which is nasty. I mean, he has 5 high kick knockouts and, very fast twitch, very explosive, very fast, powerful. And he can knock you out. So that's kind of his game, and Nate Landwehr is going to play right into that. I think Nate Landwehr is going to come forward, try to be aggressive, stay in his face, and I think Klein's going to light him up, hit him with some big shots. And if Landwehr could eat that and keep coming, then he's going to have a chance to take over the fight late. But ultimately, what I've seen from Nate Landwehr recently, I haven't really liked. I mean, before he signed with the UFC, he was an M1. He took a lot of big shots there as well, and he was able to always survive and come back on the other side and get the victory. And so far in the UFC, he's lost twice, and he's got knocked out pretty brutally, man. So eventually, you have to pay up, and that chin could be kind of done at this point. So that's something that you have to be a little bit weary about as well, especially against a guy that hits hard and, is pretty pinpoint like Ludwig Klein. So, Ludwig Klein can grapple as well. He has decent wrestling. His last fight, he was very low volume, and, I feel like that was because Mike Trizano is a very long guy, and he had a good game plan. He kept it long. He worked, really good jab. He was trying to work long leg kicks. And even though I felt like Klein probably won that fight in my opinion, it was close because of the volume. So, in this fight, I don't think Landwehr is going to be able to be technical on the outside. I think that he's going to, run into the shots, and I don't think he's going to be able to come in here with a wrestling game plan. I don't really see him doing enough damage to make Ludwig Klein gas out so bad that he's going to be able to come back at the finish or win a decision. So even if Klein can't get him out of there early, I still think that he could get that decision victory. And, ultimately I actually think that Klein is going to get a first-round knockout here again. So going to go with Ludwig Klein to get the job done here. And then up next here, man, we got a pretty interesting one. I mean, you got to give credit to Lupita Godinez here, who, last week she was supposed to fight a completely different opponent. The opponent pulled out. She accepted a girl on, 3-4 days notice for the fight. She fought. She got the victory in the first round, finish. Didn't really take any damage at all. And she is going to I believe, had the fastest turnaround in UFC history. I think it's 6 days she's going to turn around or 7 days she's going to turn around and fight again against Luana Carolina 1 week later on back-to-back cards. So, man, I mean, big props to Lupita Godinez. And, you know, other than the weight cut, which I don't think she's a very big girl, especially with this fight being at 125 pounds, I don't think she's going to have much of a weight cut at all, so she's not going to really suffer in terms of that. I think she's going to be able to go in there and be fresh and ready to go. It didn't look like she suffered many injuries in her last fight at all. And when you look at Godinez, you know, she's kind of a boxer wrestler, and she has really solid wrestling, good boxing, big power in her hands. She has good footwork, good pressure. She kind of has that Mexican style where she could take some shots, but she'll bite down to that mouthpiece and keep coming forward. And she's going to be taking on Luana Carolina, who, one thing about Carolina in this fight that she has going for her, she's going to have a huge height and huge reach advantage. And she is long and has a kickboxing background, so she's going to be trying to work those kicks. She's going to be trying to work those long punches, try to walk Lupita Godinez into a big knee, big high kicks. You know, in her fight with Priscilla Cachoeira, I don't obviously think is the same skill level of Godinez. Carolina did a good job of working off the back foot with her striking and landing some big shots. And even in her fight with Poliana Botelho, she did a fairly good job of that as well. So you definitely have to respect Carolina's skill set. I feel like even on the ground, she's a little bit underrated with her jiu-jitsu. But I just feel like Godinez is on another level in terms of just her composure and the ability that she has to just work a game plan. I feel like she's very smart. And I actually have a lot of, I think Godinez has a lot of promise. You know, I feel like maybe her debut against Jessica Panay, she maybe just wasn't feeling it. You know, obviously it's a big spot. She might have had a little bit of jitters or something, who knows, but you know, now she's starting to show herself and we're going to see who she is in these coming fights, and I feel like she's going to show that she's one of the better boxers in the division. She has great footwork, big power. When she gets in the range, she could really bomb on you. And Carolina, I don't feel like it likes to get hit the most, so I feel like Lupi is live for a knockout, and I feel like Lupi could get the takedowns and work on top if she wants to in this fight. So do think that she is the better fighter everywhere here. The size is something you have to kind of take into account, and maybe could throw you off a little bit in terms of putting her in parlays, things like that. But I think Godinez is going to get the job done, and whether she gets the finish or goes to decision, I'm not sure, but I could even see her getting a knockout in this one. We got another pretty sizable favorite in this next fight with Ramazan Emeev taking on Danny Roberts. Both these guys are UFC veterans at this point, but Emeev is the guy that's been more consistent in the UFC and is the pretty sizable favorite here. And he's 5-1 so far, which is a very good record, but the issue is just he hasn't really had super impressive or dominant performances, and due to that, he really hasn't gotten that big push or step up in competition. Probably should be fighting a higher level fighter than Danny Roberts, but you know, he needs to impress, obviously, make some noise and see if he can get a better opponent. But on the feet, I do think he's improved his striking since the Rocco Martin fight. His hands looked better than ever in his last fight, in my opinion. His jab, I think, is going to cause some issues for Danny Roberts. Very fast, sharp jab. Holds his hands low, so it's hard to kind of see when he's going to throw it. And Roberts has had a lot of issues with jabs in his previous fights, but Emeev has a big overhand right. He was sitting down putting more power into his punches in his last fight. I feel like he has decent counter punching, and fighters that hesitant really turn up on him because of the takedown threat. He has really good timing on his body locks. He is hittable though if you back him up, force him in exchanges. Leg kicks have been an issue for him throughout his career, but he's durable. He's only been finished by strikes once, and he has pretty solid cardio. He's a guy that has won decision throughout his whole career and made his money off of that, and very strong grappler. Really good timing on his level changes, good body locks. His top control isn't the greatest, but he's good at staying connected to guys against the cage, in the clinch, and kind of point fighting, working them over there. He'll get some mat returns. He has good cardio, and he can rack up a lot of control time. And great composure. He can battle through bad situations. Hard to submit if you do get him in a precarious position in the grappling realm. And definitely, a pretty hard fighter to beat overall. But Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, he's had 10 UFC fights already, so he's definitely experienced. And he has been off for 2 years, though. His last fight was that big knockout win over Zalimi Madaev. But since then, he hasn't fought in 1 year and 10 months. And he had 3 fights scheduled. One got canceled due to COVID, but the other 2, Roberts was forced to pull out. So hopefully his injuries are behind him and he gets in the cage on Saturday. And he's always been entertaining, even though he's been inconsistent. 8 of his 10 fights have ended inside the distance. And he's a striker. He's a good southpaw. He's tall. He's rangy for the division. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. Or my bad, I misspoke on that. He's actually not going to have the reach advantage, but, he is long and rangy. He's going to have the slight height advantage in this one. And he's a boxer. His best weapon is definitely his power left hand. He has a really nice straight and overhand left. His 1-2 is really nice. He has good hand speed. He has good check hook. He has power in his right hand. Sometimes he will load up and get real wild. But, when he's composed and uses his reach and speed, he's pretty effective. His kicking game is okay. He will attack some left kicks, body head. He doesn't really throw a lot of leg kicks. In his fight with Michel Pereira, he was trying to throw leg kicks, but didn't really set them up too well and was getting countered big off the leg kicks. He's been finished by strike 3 times in his career, and he's not a very good grappler. He hasn't faced many wrestlers in the UFC, but the ones he has gone against, he's been taken down fairly easily. He's only defended 53% of the takedowns against him in the UFC, and he did get a triangle choke on Nathan Coy in his UFC debut after getting taken down, and so that was good, but that's his only submission win of his UFC career. He was taken down 6 times against Dominique Steele. He did win that matchup, and he got taken down by Bobby Nash, David Zavada, Claudio Silva, and he's proven to be tough to finish, and, he has decent ability to work back up to his feet. He has good cardio. So, in his fight with Bobby Nash, he got taken down in the second round, but when he got back up to his feet, Nash was pretty tired, and he was able to finish him later in that round. And in his fight with David Zavada, he was able to show good scrambling ability, won the fight with the scrambling ability, in my opinion, in that fight. Did the same thing against Claudio Silva, showed good scrambling ability, but was eventually submitted in that one. And he does have a tendency to kind of engage in grappling when he doesn't need to, and I think he has poor fight IQ. He actually did hit a couple takedowns in his last fight, but he only has 6% takedown accuracy, so, obviously his game is keeping it on the feet and trying to find the knockout, but I just don't think that his grappling is good enough to work against an overwhelming grappler like Ramazan Emeev. I think that jab and grab style is going to be all he needs to get the victory in this one. I think he's going to be able to time some good takedowns early with the body lock. I don't know if he's going to be able to control, but I think that he's going to be able to rack up some clinch control time, if anything, if he can control on the ground. And I believe that after Robert starts to get too kind of weary of the takedown, thinking that it's going to come, he's going to start to be able to land his jabs and go to work that way. So I think that Ramazan Emeev is going to get another decision victory in this one and kind of do what he does here. And up next we got Andrew Sanchez, the UFC veteran, taking on Bruno Silva, who's a knockout artist. And it's an interesting fight because we got a clash styles here with both guys having something that the other opponent has struggled with. We got Andrew Sanchez, who is a very, very good wrestler. He is I believe, former NAIA College Wrestling National Champion, or at least All-American. He also has a good jiu-jitsu background, good control when he does get it to the mat. And Bruno Silva is a guy that's a big-time knockout artist, 17 knockouts in his 20 wins. And Bruno Silva, he's had issues with getting taken down, whereas Andrew Sanchez, he's gotten knocked down in a few of his fights. So kind of a clash of styles here, interesting fight. Bruno Silva, to me, he's kind of just a wild man. He's super unrefined, but he comes forward. He has a kind of long reach. He extends really a lot on his punches, so he can get a lot of he can hit you from far out, and he just explodes into these big 1-2s, into his big overhand right in close range. You have to be very careful avoiding those uppercuts and short hooks because he has short range power. And he's just a dangerous guy on the feet. He's always looking to knock you out. He has good knees as well, so he could mix it up a little bit, but he's mostly, you just have to avoid the big punches. He's not going to really knock you out with the high kick or with the knee, most likely, unless you're in the clinch. So, and he's not really fainting his way in. He's not technical at all. He will try to mix in some wrestling offensively, but I don't really feel like he's the greatest grappler, really. And he is a black belt, so he's gotten submitted quite a few times early in his career, but more recently he's kind of shored that up, and I feel like he's a little bit more confident on the ground, and he will kind of wait, kind of conserve his energy, let you control him, and then when you get into a position where he thinks he could explode, reverse get on top, he will, and then on top, he's super aggressive with his ground and pound and has big knockout power there. So that's kind of his game, whereas Andrew Sanchez is a guy that kind of is on the feet, way more technical. He moves around, hands down style, kind of tries to pull you into shots, has better footwork and a little bit, probably better movement overall. He's better feints, sets things up a little more, but he's not quite as explosive. He doesn't really have that one-shot knockout power, even though we have seen him knock out guys with one punch before. And then he times his takedowns really well. He has a good takedown game. He has good top control when he gets on top. The only issue with his wrestling is he has taken guys down and then gotten tired in the past and gotten finished in the third round, which, gets Bruno Silva. You can't really get tired because he's always going to be dangerous. So this is going to be a fun fight. It's going to be an interesting one. And, Andrew Sanchez, he just has way more experience against high-level guys. I think that he's going to be able to pick up the victory in this fight with just being smarter, using his, using his fight IQ to move around, frustrate Silva, not kind of engage in those big brawls, not let him explode on him, and then getting the takedowns, controlling on top, taking the back, putting the hooks in, not really looking for the finish, but just looking to grind him out over 3 rounds. And I think he has better top control than some of these opponents that Silva's been facing in the past, so I think that he could just kind of use that to get the victory. So I'm going to go with the veteran here, Andrew Sanchez, to get back on track and pick up a win. And now we're working our way into the main card here with Julian Marquez and Jordan Wright kicking off it. And we got 2 guys that actually, Julian Marquez I've been more low on, where I picked Sam Alvey to beat him, and I've picked against him in a couple of his matchups. Whereas Jordan Wright, I picked him to win against Jamie Pickett, and you guys crucified me for that pick, man. I mean, goddamn, you guys don't like Jordan Wright. It doesn't seem like many people like the Beverly Hills Ninja, man. But, I feel like he's a little bit underrated in certain matchups for sure, because the guy is big guy, man. He used to fight at 205. He has a big 5-inch reach advantage in this fight, and he's super athletic and explosive, and he throws a lot of dynamic techniques. I mean, spitting kicks. He throws big knees. He has big power in his punches. He's fast. He's explosive. He has a lot of early finishes. So, I mean, if you come in there early on and you're a little bit lax, he's going to spinning head kick you to the face and knock you out. Or he's going to, like his last fight when Jamie Pickett kind of shot in on that lazy double. He just blasted him with those elbows, really hurt him badly, and, got him out of there later in the fight. And, Jordan Wright is good at when he gets you hurt, he gets you out of there. He has good killer instinct. But the thing about him is it seems like in fights where he gets pressured and backed up, he's not comfortable in the pocket. He's not the best with his boxing, and his ability to take damage is a little bit questionable. I mean, we saw him show a little bit better ability to take damage against Joaquin Buckley, because he did get dropped and didn't get finished, but it went into the next round and then he got finished shortly after. Whereas with this fight with Hernandez, he got finished very quickly when he got hit and showed very bad composure. So, he's not really a takedown threat, Jordan Wright. Like, he's not going to shoot a takedown and put you on your back, which with Julian Marquez, if you look at the guys that he's struggled with, even the fights that he's been able to win, they've all taken him down and controlled him in top position, where I don't really see Jordan Wright coming in here with that type of game plan. So Julian Marquez is just going to have to, be calm early, even though he's a very aggressive guy that comes forward, throws bombs, and doesn't mind getting hit, taking one to give one. He has big power. He definitely has to respect that Jordan Wright could knock you out, a head kick, a knee, so that's not the same as just having to deal with punches, usually like he is when you're some of these bigger guys. So, he has to be turned on, ready to go, but I think that, if he could back him up and get into those positions where he could force these boxing exchanges, Julian Marquez is going to piece him up and really beat him up in those positions. And I don't know, I just don't trust Jordan Wright's durability at this point for me to pick him in the spot. So that's why I'm going to have to go with Julian Marquez here. I don't necessarily think either guy is going to grapple, which could, behoove Jordan Wright if he decides to. But even if he does, I don't know if he would. I never seen him do it, so I don't know if he's able to have that skill set. Marquez might be able to reverse, get on top, and it could be a bad day for him there as well. But I think Marquez is going to be able to get it done here by knockout in the first round. I just think that both these guys are going to strike, and Marquez is going to be able to show his durability because he has great durability, maybe take a shot, close that gap, and then close the show himself. So give me Julian Marquez to get it done. And up next here we got a rebooking with Manon Fiorot taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. And I already did a full breakdown for this fight, so I'm going to be a little bit short on this one. But if you want to go back and listen to an extended breakdown, you can find it on the UFC 266 video. But I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot in this one. I do think that Mayra Bueno Silva could get the victory here. I think that we don't really know a lot about Manon Fiorot through her first 2 fights in the UFC. She really kind of got to face some low-level competition, blitzkrieg through them, and was impressive. But this is a huge step up with Mayra Bueno Silva, who, isn't the most technical girl, but she comes forward, she brings it, she throws hard, she has good 1-2s, good reach, decent kicking game, she's really nasty in the clinch. And Faro, I think, isn't going to be as willing to throw down in exchange with Silva, because that's what Silva wants. Even though Faro is improving her boxing, she has big power in her hands as well. She has the ability to kick and move, kind of do a similar game plan to like the Maria Agapova did to Sabina Mazo, even though I do feel like Silva has a little bit better footwork, is a little bit faster on the feet. And then get in a clinch, smash her against the cage, hit some takedowns if you can, where we've seen Mayra Bueno Silva, you have to respect her guard and be very kind of alert when you're inside of it, that she's not going to triangle you or armbar you. But if you could pass her guard, she gets a little bit tired, gets a little bit lax on the ground. You could start to land some big ground and pound and kind of control her. We saw that with Montana De La Rosa. And I feel like Faro is the more well-rounded girl. She has good fight IQ, in my opinion. She has killer instinct. And this fight, I think, is going to be a fight where she more shows her fight IQ, whereas she showed her killer instinct in her first 2 fights. I think that with this one, she's going to move around, touch her, clinch her up, hit some takedowns, control on top, and get a nice, clean decision victory here. And up next here we got Jim Miller taking on the debuting Erick Gonzalez, and I'm sure this is the biggest discrepancy in fights in the UFC versus a guy debuting in the history of the organization. We got a guy in Jim Miller. This is going to be his 38th UFC fight. Erick Gonzalez going to be making his debut, and that can't be stated more, in my opinion. I mean, I think that it's a big advantage for Jim Miller in terms of just composure, the ability to just know what he's going into. And I think that obviously he's been in there with significantly better fighters. And you look at Erick Gonzalez, he's a veteran, and he has been campaigning to be in the UFC for a while now. He's won 4 of his last 5 fights, and he's been doing fairly well. But when you look at his resume, he has fought some UFC-level guys, but most of the time when he does, he comes up short. He lost to Humberto Bandone, who's a guy that kind of washed out in the UFC at featherweight. He lost to Rafa Garcia, and he's jumping kind of in the deep end of the pool here against Jim Miller. I mean, most of the guys that Gonzalez has been getting wins over have been inexperienced fighters, and Erick Gonzalez is a decent striker. I mean, he's long, and he comes forward, he'll switch stances, throw some decent punch-kick combos, but I don't really think he's anything special. He's hittable. His takedown defense and his grappling looks a little bit questionable. Like Humberto Bandone was able to take him down and control him over 3 rounds, and Rafa Garcia was able to take him down as well. And he has decent ability to sweep, get on top, and I've seen him show some okay scrambling on the ground. But against Jim Miller, if you're giving up those takedowns that easy, that's going to be a problem, especially early on in the fight. And we all kind of know Jim Miller's game. He's older at this point and really kind of struggles after 5 minutes, so that's something you have to be a little bit weary about. But when he faces this level of competition, he's usually been able to get him out of there in that first round. And he comes out hard. He comes out with that southpaw style, so he has the big straight left hand, overhand left, throws that big left kick, good low kicks, good calf kicks, and he has a really good not a good wrestling game, but he has decent blast double, and he has a really good grappling game where he has, I believe the most submissions in lightweight history in the UFC, and he can, snatch your neck and get you out of there. So when I'm looking at this matchup, I mean, Jim Miller, he has gotten tired in the past, and usually that's from guys that have been able to grapple with him, take him down, put him on his back. He starts to accept bottom position and just kind of, accept that decision loss. But Erick Gonzalez isn't going to take him down. He's going to keep it on the feet. He's a hittable guy. that comes forward and pushes the pace, but I don't think that he's going to be able to stop the takedown, and I think Miller is going to be able to tee off on him as well. So I just think Jim Miller is going to prove why, he's been in the UFC so long and this guy's making his debut and just show the levels. So, I'm going to go Jim Miller by first round submission here. And we got the co-main event here. We got Andrei Arlovski taking on Carlos Felipe. And Carlos Felipe asked for this fight, man. He was real vocal. He really wanted it. It seemed like he kind of, I don't think he had a beef with Andre, but it's just kind of his personality. Like, he really, models himself after the Diaz brothers. And when he fights, it's kind of a similar thing. And, he wanted the fight and he got his wish here. So he's going to be taking on the vet, Andrei Arlovski. Called him the gatekeeper. And, kind of is true at this point. I mean, Andrei Arlovski is a former UFC world champion, but, he's 42 years old at this point, and he has won 3 of his last 4 fights, so he's been doing a good job recently at beating these low-level guys, but it seems like when you get him to a certain level, he doesn't really get the victory anymore. But, I was listening to his interview as well, and it seems like he's in a good space. He was talking about how he wanted to fight a top 10, top 5 guy, and he needs to get through Felipe to do that, so he's still thinking and has aspirations of moving up in the division at least, even if it's not incredibly realistic. And Carlos Felipe, obviously, is a young guy that got his wish here to fight a legend, and we're going to see if he's going to be able to, get over the hump here. But, I feel like this is kind of a good matchup for Arlovski, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, Carlos Felipe, he has good boxing. He comes forward. He's a little bit plotty with his footwork, and, he tries to goad you into these wars, man. He talks shit to you and tries to get you to exchange with him where he has fast hands. And, if you do stay in the pocket with him in exchange, he's durable. And, he can outlast you. He has pretty solid cardio. And that's kind of how he wins these fights, man. I mean, he's able to his last 2 fights have been wars. And he wanted it more later in the fight. Was able to kind of show good body language by coming forward even after he's getting hit, talking shit, and kind of forcing the opponent on the back foot. But Felipe, he has to kind of get the guy to get in that war, and he has to, create that mental warfare to get them to want to sit in the pocket with him, because he's not the quickest guy. He doesn't have great kicks from the outside. And, if you just use a jab against him, use leg kicks, move around, you're going to have a lot of success. I mean, you saw that with Jay Collier. He was jabbing his face off. Sergey Spivak jabbing his face off. The leg kicks are very effective against Felipe, who's a, very boxing-oriented guy. And Arlovski's made his living off beating these slower heavyweights where, he could use his footwork, use his movement, jab, work his leg kicks, move around. And it's just he's going to have the cardio on point, man, which he's been able to do in these last few fights. I feel like this level opponent, he always usually is able to find that victory. And Felipe might be able to, get these inexperienced guys to brawl with him or lose composure and get a little bit tired. Why is this guy talking shit to me, walking me down? But Arlovski, he's going to be ready for that. He's obviously a super vet, and I don't think he's going to get off his game by any of that trash talking. I think he'll just be, even more, turned on and, smart, ready to go, actually. And I just think he's going to come in here and show that good game plan. I think he's going to work the legs early, throw a lot of leg kicks. He's going to try to, get Felipe tired maybe by attacking the body a little bit and just working that jab, body, head. And I think that he's going to stay long, stay fast. He's going to have the big height advantage. He's going to have a reach advantage. I think that, he could even get in that clinch and work him over a little bit there. And I just think he's going to be just a little bit too fast for Felipe. The jab is going to be popping. The leg kicks are going to be working. And Andrei Arlovski is going to be able to get another decision victory. And then finally here we got the main event. We got Aspen Ladd taking on Norma Dumont. And obviously Aspen Ladd needs to perform here. I mean, she hasn't fought in quite some time. It's been almost 2 years at this point. And obviously just a couple weeks ago she missed weight. She was trying to drop down to 135 pounds. Looked really bad on the scale. And that wasn't the first or even the second time that Ladd has had weight cutting trouble. So they told her, you got to move up to 145. She got the call for this short notice main event, and she accepted the fight. So right after that weight cut, she turned around and fighting, which I don't know how smart that is. I doubt she's going to have to cut much weight for 45s, but, your body can't be 100%. You peak twice now, or you're having to peak twice. At least cut probably a little bit of weight twice, had a really bad weight cut, tried to, replenish your body to fight again. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's the smartest thing, but Norma Dumont, you know, she should be primed and ready here. I mean, she was expecting to face a legend in Holly Holm. She was ready for the 5-round fight, whereas Ladd was getting ready for a 3-round fight off the layoff. And Norma was in a position that Ladd was in last year a little bit. She blew the weight cut against Ashley Evans-Smith, and due to that, she was forced to move up to 145. And you know, she announced herself as a player right away. She took out the second best girl in the weight class, Felicia Spencer. And Spencer, you know, beat Megan Anderson. She went 5 rounds to Amanda Nunes. And, you know, Dumont versus Holm was probably a title eliminator, number 1 contender fight. And if she beats Aspen Ladd, I find it hard to believe she's not going to get the next title shot at 145. So it's a big spot for Dumont here. And she's shown she's a well-rounded fighter. She showed off her striking against Felicia Spencer. Showed off more of her wrestling against Ashley Evans-Smith. And her one loss was a knockout loss against Megan Anderson, who's a heavy hitter. And I actually think this is a fairly good matchup for Norma Dumont. The only issue is their cardio. And the one thing about it is, you know, Aspen Ladd, I believe, probably has the better cardio, could push the pace. I saw Dumont get a little bit tired that 3rd round against Felicia Spencer. But when you equate everything into it, you know, you think about Aspen Ladd having to, you know, fight at a weight class she's not used to, you know, have a little bit more extra weight on her, fight these extra 2 rounds she was not expecting to fight earlier. She just had a very bad weight cut. She's turning back around, having to make weight again and then fight a couple weeks later. I don't think those things really point to having great cardio, so I don't know if that's going to be a weapon for Aspen Ladd that she could really aggressively go to, as well as the layoff. And Norma Dumont, you know, she should be in the best shape of her life getting ready for this 5-round fight against a legend of the sport like Holly Holm. So, you know, I think Norma Dumont is going to be primed and ready to go. Like I said, she should have the best cardio of her career. And when you look at these 2 girls on the feet, I think Norma Dumont has way more firepower. You know, she is pretty fast, and she's willing to throw that 3-2, man. I mean, she loves that 3-2 combo. She, in the close range, really lets go with big uppercuts and big hooks, big straights, and she has good hand speed as well. So I feel like Aspen Ladd, you know, she's hittable. She walks forward, doesn't really have a lot of fakes or feints, a little bit plotty. She has decent boxing herself, and if she could eat those shots of Dumont and come back with, you know, her hooks or her straight shots over the top, you know, maybe she could hurt Dumont, who I don't know how good her chin is, but Megan Anderson's a big girl with knockout power. Aspen Ladd has never showed that. And, you know, Aspen Ladd has finished every opponent she's faced outside of Sijara Eubanks, who's a good grappler. And Sijara Eubanks is obviously a strong wrestler, so Ladd didn't really have a ton of success with the... She took her down and controlled her a little bit, but Sijara took down Aspen as well. Sijara had a lot of clinch control time against Aspen, and, you know, on the feet, they had to bang it out a little bit. So, you know, Sijara is obviously a good grappler, but a smaller girl. She fights at 125. Norma Dumont's a big girl, man. I feel like, you know, she's going to be able to match that physicality of Aspen Ladd. I think she's going to be able to control her in the clinch if she wants to against the cage. I think on the feet, she's going to have that better movement with that Sanda style. She's going to have the decent kicks on the outside, good punches. I feel like she should holster the kicks and work her boxing here. Try to, you know, hit Aspen Ladd with some heat early, get her to kind of discouraged, and then go forward and take over the fight herself, be the bully. And Aspen Ladd, you know, she's going to have to push the pace and try to get it to the ground, get on top. But I've seen Norma Dumont off her back in other fights, you know, jiu-jitsu matches where she's done well off her back. She's shown a good ability to scramble. And I feel like she's the better girl on the ground as well. So that's going to be an issue for Aspen Ladd. I mean, Aspen Ladd does have a tendency to get a lot of girls out with ground and pound. She's very aggressive. But I think that when she's being super aggressive and wild, you know, it can kind of make some girls really turn off and just kind of give up, whereas I think Norma Dumont is going to be too experienced for that, and she's going to be able to reverse if Aspen Ladd starts to get real crazy on the ground. So I don't think Aspen Ladd's going to be able to control as effectively or get the finish on Norma Dumont unless she gets tired. And I just don't expect her to have that zip and that juice that she would have on a normal fight with all the circumstances coming around this fight. And I think Norma Dumont is better on the feet, better on the ground, the bigger, more physical girl, and she's the underdog, man. So I got to go with Norma Dumont. Got to pick her to get the victory here against Aspen Ladd, and think she gets it done and kind of announces herself as, you know, maybe the future title challenger at 145. So going to go with Norma Dumont here as the slight upset. So there you have it, guys. That's the full card breakdown for UFC Fight Night Ladd versus Dumont. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some content, you know, learned something from these breakdowns. Once again, would really appreciate you guys to subscribe to the channel if you're new, or hit the like button if you're a guy that comes here more often. Drop a like, and put down in the comments down below what your most confident pick is, and what you think is good bets on this fight. Do you agree with some of the underdog picks that I'm picking? Do you disagree? I'd be interested to hear. But as far as my parlay of the week, I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr and Ramazan Emeev as the parlay of the week. For my most confident pick, I'm going to go with Ramazan Emeev. So thanks for watching, guys. I've been doing really well recently. I mean, we've been getting a lot of these picks correct. You've, I believe, won 3 or 4 parlay of the weeks in a row. So hopefully we can keep the momentum going. Really appreciate the support. I'm going to be back next week for a little bit better card than this one. And yeah, guys. So gonna hear from me soon. If you want to jump on that Patreon, check out the Bellator. That would be really awesome. And I'll talk to you guys later.